Welcome to Routing for Success, the show where we interview today's top logistics professionals, giving them a platform to share their stories and best practices. Today we are talking with John Chestnut. John is an independent service provider for FedEx Ground via his company, Grace and Peace Deliveries. I was originally referred to John by another CSP who told me that John's company is one of the most professional and well-run FedEx Contractor businesses that they had ever come across. In this episode, John talks about his experience training to become a youth minister and how those skills serve him in his business today. He also uncovers some strategies that he's implemented to help him succeed in the difficult economic environment that we find ourselves in today. Prior to recording, John gave me a heads up that one strategy he's adamant about is limiting his use of debt. Now, Routing for Success is a production of AP Equipment Financing, and John wanted to be respectful and make sure I was okay with him talking about the fact that he prefers not to use financing to whatever degree possible. I appreciated John's consideration, but the goal of this podcast is to help give today's contractors a platform to share their ideas, and it wouldn't be right for me to censor someone like John Chestnut just to serve our own agenda. A heads up on a few other things, though. I lost my voice the day that this interview was recorded, and we had some technical difficulties toward the end of the interview, which caused some distortion in the audio. So you'll have to bear with us through a little bit of my scratchy voice and distorted audio. I really don't think it's too bad, though, and I don't think it will distract you from the lessons by John Chestnut. All right, we're here with John Chestnut. John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, it's so funny. Leading up to this, I was talking to a contractor, and I asked him, "Hey, who do you think I should be talking with?" And the contractor told me, there's one person who would be really, really good. This person just runs an excellent operation. Their employees, my employees are always showing up with, sideways hats and rainbow colored shirts. This guy's employees are always showing up really just professional, and they're on it. And you got to get him on your podcast, and his name is John Chestnut. So not to put too much pressure on you, but your reputation precedes you. And
very kind.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you today. So thanks for meeting up.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about your FedEx Contractor business. Before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background before you'd ever heard of this business?
So I started out actually planning to be a youth pastor and went to college for that. Decided that was not really the path that was for me. But strangely enough, a lot of those skills, those classes that they taught us to work with youth actually come in handy when you're building an organization, and you get to put some of those leadership qualities and some of those practices into place as you're building and leading an organization. And so nothing is ever wasted. That's something that in your life, everything you've gone through has been for a purpose to get you to where you are now. And so even those experiences that you thought you might have wasted, they still prepare you and make you into who you are today, and hopefully make you successful heading into the future. And so that's where we are. So I went to college, moved to Kansas City after college, started driving a truck for a contractor there, became his BC after a while, and then eventually bought him out in 2016. We had, I believe it was 6 or 7 routes at the time. And so now we were up to about 50 a day at a point in time. We've sold some. Now we're back to around 40 a day that we're dispatching. We've downsized a little bit, but that's the current state of the fleet and where we are.
How many stations are you in?
We're in 2. Both of them. There's 2 there in Kansas City. The other one was 2.5 hours away, which is the one that we decided it was a little too far for us to be able to keep our brand and stay on top of it. So we moved off of that one, and now we have just the 2 there in Kansas City.
So you talked about staying on brand. Tell us more about that, because I talked to a lot of contractors, many of whom say, I would never want to have an operation that I'm not able to physically show up to every single day. And then I talked to other contractors who have really spread out organizations where they have to get on an airplane and fly somewhere if they want to have any type of physical presence with the business. Tell us more about that brand comment. What did you mean by that, and what does that mean for you?
So for me, my company name is Grace and Peace, and the brand that we have. And being associated with that, hopefully, it means something. It means the pursuit of excellence. We will never catch it, but we will always pursue it. And so doing things the right way with honesty, with integrity, making sure that we're putting forth the effort to do the best that we can every day. And that always comes through people. And so that's part of the thing is if you put the people first, the business will be successful. Making sure that you're taking care of your people financially, emotionally, spiritually, working with them and trying to promote a team. And I have amazing guys that do that for me. And I'm not in the terminal every day. If there's a fire, I go to the terminal. That's kind of my job, is to go to the point where the battle is the hottest. And so some days that's in my office at home, and some days that's on the dock in the terminal working with people. But the people that I have in place usually handle the day-to-day operations in a fantastic way. And I don't have to get involved in the day-to-day as much. I'm more of a broad overall company direction kind of a role.
Tell us a little bit more about how your experience as a youth pastor has served you in the FedEx Contractor business.
One of the things that they taught us as a youth pastor is the concept of servant leadership, where leadership is not where you're striving to get to the top where everyone is serving you. The higher you go, the more people it is your job to serve. And so the higher your leadership position, the broader the broader your scope of service to those around you. And so it's not that everyone in your team is not there to serve you. You are there to serve them. And that's the idea of kind of servant leadership that came through is I'm not striving to gain a position. I'm striving to serve people. And the higher I go, the more opportunity I have to do that. And that's my goal. Don't always achieve it, but that is always the goal.
Can you give us a specific example of a time when you used servant leadership in your business?
Not necessarily a specific example. I think the things that would come to mind would be if you have let's say you have a driver that's there that you know is going through a tough time, a divorce, a childcare situation, something that they're struggling with. How can you serve them? Can you, does that come to the point of, okay, if I'm out there and they're out there, I'm going to take the last 20 stops and tell them to go home, and I'll be the one that's out there late because I know that they're going through a tough time. And so that's, you're constantly looking for ways to encourage your people, and just let them know that they're important, that you're on their side, and serving them in that way.
John, what are some things you feel like you do in your FedEx Contractor business that you do really well? What do you feel like you're good at?
Sometimes it feels like a whack-a-mole. You feel like you have an area tied up, and then it's all of a sudden you start focusing on another area, and now you look back and this whole area just went to pieces again. One of the things that I think we do well is we try to offer the whole. We've been able to achieve our goals as an operation, and in so doing, we've also been able to provide services and to help others in the building and those around us. And so one of the things that we have, there's a gentleman he's been with FedEx, started with RPS. He's now with FedEx. He was an old contractor. I bought him out. He's been working with me ever since, and he's in charge of our certified training operation. That's now required as part of the Schedule I. And so he's not only training our drivers, but he's also, people are sending drivers to him all the way from all around the city. And so when they need to be in a truck delivering a route, they don't have time to go through a class with their driver. They send him to me we can run him through class. We can train him. He has 20 plus years of experience to share with them. And then we can send them back to their contractor. And so that's something that I think we do well. On the maintenance side, we have a maintenance shop where we do the majority of the issues on our truck. I have an amazing guy, Jeff, that's been with me for years, that can do miracles with a truck. And so being able to help others, he constantly has other contractors calling him and saying, my truck is doing this. What do you think it is? And so that's something that we've been able to help other contractors around, that I think we do well, is to be community minded, community conscious, and say, we're in this as a group. How can we all be successful? And that's the goal. One of the things that I think we do well.
What about on the other side of the spectrum? What are some things that you feel like, maybe not necessarily that you struggle with, but you feel like are areas of opportunity that you're trying to improve?
Biggest area of opportunity right now are our turnover and call-ins. That's one of the things that we struggle with. In 2019, I was getting over $5.60 a stop. I'm now getting right around $3 a stop. And so it's the number of stops have to increase, which puts more pressure on the drivers. And so there's more stops, there's more packages on the truck, trying to maintain, or at least not that level of revenue that we were making before, which is not possible to do, but we're trying to as much as possible maintain it. And so having that, it's hard on the drivers. At the same time, inflation has gone up so much. So between 2019 and today, a driver that was making $800 a week in 2019 would have to be making over $1,000 today. And that's not something so at the same time that my stops have decreased $2.50 per stop, driver compensation has also not been able to increase as much as we would like. So that's something that's affecting the turnover rate. That's something there's also generational concepts of the generation Gen Z that's coming in that prefer more of an Uber Eats, a gig economy, where they're wanting more part-time work. And so trying to figure out what makes them tick, and saying, okay, do you want to work 2 or 3 days a week? Perhaps 5 days a week is not there. What days work for you? As long as you show up, we can schedule you for whatever schedule you want to work. Being flexible in that way. That's one of the ways. And then just, so one of the things that's one of the things that we're working on is, how do we stop the turnover? How do we make this a destination job that people can come here and can enjoy for many years? That also affects your service. That affects your safety. There's so many other things. If you're turning your people over every 6 months, how do you, there's only a certain amount of things that you can teach them. And so you're constantly running into pickup issues, service issues, so many other things that are all there as a result of that turnover. And then call-ins are another struggle. I mean, we had a day a couple weeks ago where we had 12 call-ins. And so how do you, that's 12 trucks that are sitting there without a driver. We got them all delivered, but finding a way to do that without having a 12-person bench that you're paying for. And so trying to communicate with the drivers the importance of, communicating with us, of making sure that, hey, if there's a chance you're not going to be there, let us know. That's the hardest part of my operation, is handling the call-ins, handling the turnover. That's the area that we're struggling with, and we're trying to find solutions for right now.
How do you handle that? I mean, if you have a day with 12 call-ins, you have 12 trucks without drivers, do you just not deliver the packages that day that would have been delivered?
That's not an option. I mean, we deliver them. I mean, the only day that we have ever sat a route in Grace and Peace's history was the day that we adopted our third child. And so I was in the hospital and didn't have the opportunity to be on the dock, and that it happened. We sat a route with 60 stops that day. But other than that, I mean, I have an amazing team. I mean, I have people that I thank the Lord for every day that work with me, that they are the heroes of Grace and Peace. They make this company work. And so that's something that one of the biggest burdens on me is, how do I provide for them? And how do I, make sure that this is a job that as everything they're giving me and everything they're providing to Grace and Peace, how can I make sure that they're set up for the future, that where they're going and, into retirement, into the years ahead, that they have a place, they have everything that they need to be successful at that point.
How do you attract talent? I mean, it sounds like you have an amazing team. How do you find good people?
Most of our hiring, honestly, is through Indeed. There's some word of mouth. We have drivers that have moved to different locations, and they're constantly calling and texting and saying, "Hey, I've got this guy that's moving to Kansas City. He'd love to be able to work for you." So we have some word of mouth that's there. We try not to as much as possible, but there's also other drivers that work for other entities in the building that look and that say, "Hey, this is a team that I want to be a part of." Again, that has to be a very, very careful dance is how you do that, to work with the other contractor and see what works best for both of you, and to handle that in a community. But really just, hiring people, bringing people in, and not being afraid to let someone know, "I don't think this is a good spot for you." And so, we don't feel that your attitude or that the way that you handle situations mesh well with the rest of the team. And so now we in every case where we feel that their character is good, we will always provide another spot for them. Whether that's through another contractor, whether that's, another position that's available, we will do everything we can to say, we don't see that you have a future with our team, but here's another opportunity so that you get a paycheck next Friday. And so that's always important to us to do. But yes, we're not afraid to move on people that we don't fit in well. And then we try to do everything we can to retain the people that we do look at and say, "Hey, these are the people of character. The attitude is great. They're the people that we want to keep on our team."
Right. Shifting gears a little bit, John, I've had many contractors tell me that 2022 and 2023 so far have been some of the most challenging times of recent memory to be a FedEx contractor. The cost of labor went up, the supply of labor went down, fuel skyrocketed at one point. It's come down a bit, but it's still pretty high. The prices of trucks have gone up. Everything has become more expensive. What are some things that you've done in your business to try to mitigate each of those to the degree that you can?
One of the things it's a very broad question. And so, yes, it's very hard. This is the one of the last couple years, there was the Paycheck Protection loan that came out that we took advantage of, and I believe many other contractors took advantage of. There was the ERC credit that came out that, again, we took advantage of. Those helped the last 2 years, and so this year in 2023 is the first year without assistance that's there, that we're trying to rely on FedEx compensation, and that FedEx compensation again has been they've cut into it severely. And so trying to hang on and say, okay, I hope this pendulum swings. But how do we make sure that if this is it, if this is as good as it gets, how can we be successful moving into the future? And so you have to break your expenses down. You have to look at it and say, where can I save money? How much am I paying for each thing, and what is my return on it? Okay, so if I'm paying $500 a week to Indeed, how much am I paying per candidate, per butt in the seat? How much? What is that true cost to me per individual? How much am I getting on my fuel mileage? Is there a way to look at a different vehicle mix? Is there a way to look at alternative fuels? We're trying right now on 3 of our trucks. It's the company is ICOM, but it has a dual fuel system where you have it starts on gasoline, and so it warms up to about 80 degrees, and then it switches over to propane. And so at propane, then it runs throughout the day. And then that's so the majority of the fuel usage is propane. Well, propane, depending on the quantity that you get and the contract that you sign, you could get it for as little as $1 a gallon. And so the difference between right now where you have $1 a gallon versus $3 and I think it was 35 cents when I left, it's substantial. And so how can you do that? Now there's, it's upfront cost, 10 grand a truck. There's additional licensing that you have to do through your state, the fuel taxes that are on that. There's also, there's a state for us in Kansas, there's a state tax rebate of up to 10 grand per truck. And so you have the rebates that are there. On the federal level through the end of 24, you get 50 cents a gallon as a tax credit as a result of alternative fuels. So there's some options there to look at and to examine, but don't be afraid to look outside of the box. Don't be afraid to take the box and break it down and shake it up and say, what does it look like without the box? And just examine every aspect of your business and say, is there a way that I can do this cheaper? Is there a way that I could design a vehicle or a way that I can save money up front? That another example, we had Auto Park Fleet up in Michigan. They had the vehicles that they were building. To get a VIN number on a vehicle, you have to drive it. And so they would drive the vehicle up to get the VIN number. And then once they got the VIN number, they would pull the motor and the transmission out of the vehicle and send that up to be electrified. And so they would put in the electric batteries, the motor, and everything else that were there. Well, they had a ton of motors and transmissions that were sitting there as a unit that they were selling for 30 to 40% off. And so we were able to take advantage of that and say, we picked up 10 motors, I think, 10 motors and transmission kits for the cost of just the transmission. And so finding those opportunities that are there and saying, yes, it's going to cost 35 grand up front or more, but the payback for this is long-term. You can't look at it and say, what am I going to do now? You have to look and say, what does this look like at 5 years into the future? It's going to be a little bit more expensive now, but how does this pay off moving into the future? The biggest way that you can do that is to stop paying the bank. If I'm out there, the cost of a vehicle for me, if you were to go and purchase let's say a P1000, P1200, somewhere in there per dispatch, for me, that cost, depending on the depreciation, but it's around $17 a dispatch of cost that is every time you dispatch that truck. And so if you finance that, if you put that out there where you're paying the bank, I think it's 9.25% interest rate right now, you have to look at it and say, I have an additional $5 per dispatch that I'm paying the banker on. What does that look like now? How much revenue do I have to make on that route to be able to cover the scanner, the vetter, the driver, the tires, the maintenance, the depreciation, all those things that are all part of that dispatch, and looking and saying, I need to make sure that this truck is going out is actually financially viable for me. And so trimming down those costs wherever you can find them, slimming up your operation, and making sure that each route you dispatch can make you a profit, hopefully at least a small profit or at least break even. And that's something important. And this is nothing against financing. This is, financing. I bought into it. I had a huge, SBA loan. I had trucks that I bought, but that's in the environment that we're in, pursuing that opportunity to be debt free, where you can pay with cash, where a lot of this, those additional financing costs that come through are no longer, you're no longer carrying. That's huge in this business to carry you forward and be successful, is to be able to trim those costs down.
So you mentioned that you used financing at one point. Are you currently completely debt free in the business?
Yes, as the business we are.
Okay. And so it seems like there's a few different philosophies on the use of debt in a business. On the one hand, you want to invest your own personal money into a business and you want to get a good return on that investment. One way people do that is by leveraging the business through debt. And that could either be something like an SBA loan or choosing to finance the trucks that you buy. While on the other hand, you could just be completely debt free and you'll have better cash flow, because you're not making principal and interest payments. But then your return on the invested capital is going to be lower because it's not levered at all. In the long run, do you feel like being debt free is the right decision for your business pretty much no matter what? Or do you feel like there could be a use of leverage for certain opportunities, either for growth or if rates come down and it just starts to make sense? What's your kind of presiding philosophy for just using debt in the business?
I'm a bit of I enjoy listening to Dave Ramsey. If you're familiar with him, and he's, no debt at any cost. I do feel like there is a place for debt at some point. We would not have had the opportunities that we've had if we did not pursue purposeful debt. And that was we wouldn't have been able to invest in this business at all without that. Know your risk and know your spot. It depends on your point in your rainbow. If you're starting your rainbow, you're going to pour everything you have into it, and that may involve some debt. That may involve putting your house, putting a mortgage on your second-born, whatever it takes to get into that business. But know your risk and know the reward that you could potentially have. This is I've been in this business for over a decade. This is a scary time. And knowing that we're here and that you are 2 or 3 bad driver decisions away from losing your contract. Know that. And what does this happen? I always look at it and say, what is the worst case scenario? If everything goes wrong, will I still be okay? And that's the point that to look at the financing of, if everything goes wrong, where will I be okay? Will my family be okay? And push toward making sure that you and your family are protected in whatever way that's there, because that losing the roof over your head would be the worst thing that you could really do for your family. And so you try to push toward that end of the rainbow where hopefully you have the freedom to work. Yes, debt is a tool to get you there. But know at this time, what is that risk and what is that reward? And there are tremendous intangible emotional challenges that come from debt. Knowing that if I lose this contract with FedEx tomorrow, I still have $20,000 or $30,000 a month that I have to make in payments. And how am I going to do that? And there's a tremendous weight that comes with that. So speaking from this side, not having that weight is tremendous. It's amazing. There's still a weight. There's still a challenge that's there, and it would still, if I did lose the contracts, it would tremendously hurt. But at least I know that I'm not going to lose everything at this point, because I'm not, that won't repossess everything I have because it's paid off, which is amazing. So yes, debt is a tool. Use it, but no worst case scenario. Have a plan for the worst case scenario to be able to provide for yourself and your family. And that's if you have to do it to get there. Dave Ramsey is probably going to be really mad if he hears me say this, but I do think that there is a place for it. But know your risk, know your reward, and use it wisely.
John, what are you looking forward to? We look into 2024 and beyond. There's a lot of changes, right? There's the Express and Ground integration that's happening, at least in the lower 48 states. Most of that volume seems to be going toward people like you, to the contractor model.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of other changes too that you and I probably don't even know about. What are you looking forward to as you push into 2024 and beyond?
I think that FedEx, and this is a FedEx space, so I'm going to refer to FedEx, which is my business. I think that FedEx is making a lot of right decisions. They're moving forward. The express integration needs to happen. They need to trim their staff. This is something that the number of staff that they have compared to the number of staff in the same industry that we have, basically UPS, FedEx's staff is incredibly bloated. And so they need to have a leaner, meaner network, and they need to be able to eliminate some of that. The express is a good first step. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. They need to get that volume over here. Moving forward, the opportunities, I think, to invest in FedEx, I haven't seen anything else like it. It's scary. You have to have a very high risk tolerance because there's a lot of risk that's involved, and the reward side of that is there. It's diminished from what it was, but there is still a reward that's there if you can come in and do it right. And so the opportunity to come into a FedEx space is still there. I'm not going to tell anyone that that reward is not there, but know what you're getting into. And that's the challenge for new contractors, for new people that are coming in. You have to be on top of your business. You have to know where every dollar goes. You have to name it and send it. And so if you just show up at the end of the month and hope everything is going to be fine, you won't be successful. And so you have to have that. So that's something I hope once the Express comes on, that's an area that FedEx, that pendulum will start to swing, and that we'll start to recoup some of that $2.50 per stop that we've lost over the last 4 years. And so I think that as we move into this, there's tremendous opportunity that's there. I don't know the future. I would love to know the future and to know what all is out there. I see, looking forward, I see equal positives and negatives, and a lot of it depends on where it goes. As far as our businesses are driven largely by the economy. If people feel great, they'll order online. And so how does that look moving forward when student loan payments resume here in September and October? If people are now shelling out another $300 to $900 a month in student loan payments, how comfortable are they going to be to continue ordering stuff online? And so there's a lot of different things that are looking forward. You just try to achieve as much information as you can to soak it in, and to learn from it and make your best guess, and just continue to do the best that you can today. And that's one of the things that as a Christian, it's something that to me, I love to plan. I love to know this is what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, in next year, and in 5 years. I don't have the ability to do that. And that's one of the things that attempting to plan for all of the different things that could happen will drive you crazy. And so for me, my faith allows me to say, I'm going to do the best that I can today. I'm going to make the best plans that I can. And then I'm going to let my God take care of tomorrow. and that provides a level of peace and a level of comfort for me. Looking back through the years that I've done this, it's been amazing to see ways that he's provided that I have never seen. I couldn't plan it. I didn't see it coming, and he knew and he provided. And so looking forward into the future, I know that he will continue to do that. I can rest in him. I can trust in him. And I know that I will do everything I can to continue to make my business successful, to make my people successful. And if I come to the end of myself and there's something that happens that I didn't plan for, I know that he knew it was coming. And I just have to trust in him to continue to make sure that my family and my people are provided for.
John, I think that's a great place to sign off. I really appreciate you sitting down with me and talking today. Absolutely. And enjoy the rest of your time here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Routing for Success is brought to you by AP Equipment Financing. In today's competitive market, it is essential to acquire the right trucks at a fair price and finance them in a way that makes sense for your business. Leveraging their extensive network of truck and van suppliers, the experts at AP Equipment Financing will help you locate the best deals on step vans, cutaways, panel vans, and more. Deliver them straight to your facility and finance them with low monthly installment options. Click the link in the description or visit apfinancing.com for more information. Routing for Success is an independent production of AP Equipment Financing and is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by FedEx Corporation, FedEx Ground, Amazon, or any other logistics company discussed herein. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Routing for Success.